please put your hands together for the moderator of this panel. It's Florian Erber. Florian, my man, you've been friends with the team for a long time.
Yep.
You've sat in the seat, and now this is your moment. But you were telling me backstage about Ananda?
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about the fund.
Yeah, Ananda Impact Fund is, since 8 years, a venture capital fund for impact investing. We started this in Munich, quite driven to do something meaningful, building stuff which matters. And I hope today you all get a little bit out of this, why we're doing this, and motivated to work in that space.
Excellent. Well, if you guys are ready, please put your hands together for the panelists.
Okay, let's see if we all fit on this one. Yeah, is that okay, or shall I move over?
I'll take the corner seat.
The lady in the corner. Okay, excellent. Thank you for coming, especially Hedda and Uli flying in from Luxembourg. I was preparing a little bit introductory brief speech about how motivating and great it is to work in impact investing, but we'll talk about it a little bit later. What I wanted to share with you is an article I just read yesterday in Forbes magazine, and there's a few statistics which are quite interesting for everyone, and everyone I think here in doing business with millennials, which is a quite a significant target group right now. So incorporating social good into a business model has always been laudable, but it's especially important as millennials reach the height of their spending power. Almost half of millennials are willing to make a purchase to support a cause, and over half will pay more for environmentally sustainable products. In addition, and this is important I think, 94% of millennials want an opportunity to use their skills to help a cause, meaning you'll have better luck recruiting them as team members if your business makes a positive difference. So all your startups, you will have the fun of hiring, especially when you're Berlin, which is really empty, an empty market now. So you better think about impactful products and companies. We'll get to that. We'll get back to that later. I want to start with a question which is a classic one, and we just need to get that elephant out of the room a little bit. It's this whole question about impact versus profit. And when I started 8 years ago in this space, almost until today, my peers in venture capital, they gave me great credit to work on impact investing, or the companies are doing so good. But then on the side, and I really appreciate the positive feedback, but on the side they asked me, can you make money with this? You know, can they be profitable, investable? You know, the good doer, isn't this philanthropy? So we believe it's financing profitability and chances to scale up big businesses and impact, but I have an expert here, Uli, who will help us answer this. Before I do so, I will quickly introduce you guys, sorry, jumping around there a little bit. Uli is the head of EIF, a deputy director of the equity program, so for all the VCs in the room here, you know him, and I'm sure you should listen up good because there's your future funding maybe, a little bit input in there. We have Hedda coming in, and business angel, power woman, professor of social entrepreneurship, I understand. Very active in diversity and female empowerment in business, so we'll hear maybe a little bit from that point of view from you. And we have Marc here, almost the most important person. He's the founder of Media for Care. This event is about entrepreneurship, and we are very curious to hear a little bit more about a practical example. So back to the first question, Uli. Can you make impact and financial returns at the same time?
Well, actually, I find the feedback that you get from the VC community pretty funny, and actually, I would like you to share with me the names of the VCs that consider still
I think some are in here.
Societal impact as being philanthropic or charity, because we might use that as a criterion in our selection process next time around. Now, joke aside, the question that you're asking 10 years ago, I probably would have had hesitations in answering that, because at that time we really were still in the midst of the debate of the trade-off between financial return and societal impact. But I think if we look at the world, how it is shaping today, and not least by what you have been citing from the news article that you have been reading out here. We are living in a totally different shape of a world today than 10 years ago. What we basically face today is a world that is confronted with global challenges, global issues of society that 10 years ago still could be confined in regional or national context, where you basically could pay off your responsibility as a community because you could isolate yourself from the big problems of the world. Those issues today have become totally global, and hence also the solutions that we need to look for need to be global. And I think the business community increasingly has understood that the biggest challenge for a company that is successful today on a global basis is to be responsive to societal challenges. And the value that a company today has is nothing else but the value to societal challenges it creates. We are living in that environment and have actually another dimension which comes into play in that respect, which is the concept of instant accountability. 15, 20 years ago, if you have been screwing up as a company, you could possibly invite one of your journalists of the local newspaper to a dinner and say, can you please not talk about it? Today, we live in an environment where actually within seconds, maybe even before your marketing manager or your communication officer in a company knows about a big screw up in your company, all the planet will know about it. And that means that the responsiveness that you have as a company to societal issues, that your customers will actually penalize if you don't live up to it instantly, is something which has become the single most important factor of competitiveness that we today have in the environment. And unless, as an owner of a company, as a manager of a company, as an investor in the company, you are aware of this, you're going to lose out big time.
Okay, thank you. I think this really is something for everyone to consider for the future, even the funds behind it and the investors. Switching a little bit to another angle of this. Hedda, you've been a business angel for quite a long time. You see the angel world out of venture philanthropy from the classic business angel side. You have been at the EBAN, heading the EBAN Business Angel, Business Angel Network Europe for quite a while. So how do you see this angle of impact versus financial returns, these different worlds merging actually a little bit?
So I think I should begin with talking about, most business angels are entrepreneurs. I started building businesses and investing in businesses, and any entrepreneur already knows that you're using the power of creativity to solve problems, which is why entrepreneurship and social entrepreneurship work so well together. This idea that if you're going to identify a problem, you consider it an opportunity and you innovate solutions for it. So to draw the path into the business angel world, I love entrepreneurship. I love that mentality, the attitude towards fixing problems. And becoming a business angel was just after my own building of businesses. It's tiring, as anybody who is an entrepreneur in this room knows, but you still want to be part of that. Being a business angel means that you are investing in a person, in the concept, in the disruption. So I talk a lot about non-financial returns. Uli mentioned value and what that means these days. We've been trained in our economics and business courses that value is financial. It's something that you see a number on. But we all know, it's just obvious, that value comes in so many different dimensions. And when you start evaluating what value means for you, in particular in the world of entrepreneurship, you guys don't start businesses unless you're passionate about what it is you're creating. A business angel doesn't invest in a business just for the financial returns. They invest in the excitement, in the journey, in the person, in the probability of successful, attaining what you're trying to achieve. Those are the non-financial returns. So it's, I think, a very normal path as a business angel to start looking at impact, because you are already creating that. And I see philanthropists, the venture philanthropy side that you mentioned, I see philanthropists trying to recognize, okay, what is this social entrepreneurship? What is impact investing? And then on the business angel side, I see a convergence from both sides, and that's what we're hopefully going to see.
Okay, thank you. I think it always helps to get a concrete example and to really understand what kind of companies are impact enterprises. I'm happy to have you here, Marc. You have started a startup which is part of our portfolio for full disclosure in the aging and dementia space. And correct me if I'm wrong, here's the other statistic which affects all of you, I can tell you that. So dementia affects 1 in 14 people over 65 and 1 in 6 over 80. And this is not only that you will very likely have dementia at some point, but a family member of yours will have it, grandparents or parents, and you will have to deal with that situation. I just had that last week in a certain context, and it's really a brutal situation, and you can't heal it yet. And I'm curious, Marc, what are you doing in that space? What makes an impact enterprise, and especially what are you doing in the dementia area?
Yeah, so Florian, unfortunately, your numbers are correct. What we are doing at Media for Care is we are developing an assistant program, especially for senior care and dementia care. Our program helps seniors to stay mentally active and also connected to their families, to their loved ones. And it's especially designed for seniors with a low-level need of care, but also for seniors with dementia or Alzheimer. And to go into numbers, there are already over 3,000 nursing homes which are using our assistant program. This means that almost every third nursing home in Germany works with our program. And we also started to sell our program to families who are doing the caregiving by their own. And with little marketing spend, there are already hundreds of families who are working with our program. And on our revenue model
that would be interesting.
Yeah, is subscription based, which means they have to pay around 35 euros per month. And this recurring revenue gives us a nice stability and very nice profitability on the long run.
Excellent. So I remember when you came to us, what was really what we liked, that you managed to go really quickly executing sales into nursing homes, which is a billion-euro market, and getting a digital product in that area was great. So you told me, Hedda, behind stage, you are involved in tech for good. Maybe you have 1 or 2 other examples where you say, you know, this is crazy tech stuff, which everyone talks about here, but is also impactful.
Technology has been a funny space for impact investing because there's this perceived, in the way that finance and social was also considered 2 separate elements, mutually exclusive, and Uli spoke to the fact that that they're not. In tech, I find the same thing, this idea that technology is cold and distant and needs to be done by, that's disconnected from the humanity of the social sector. Tech is a double-edged sword. It can be used for good, it can be used for bad. You can take the same technology and use it to help billions of people, or you can use it in a very backwards way. So embracing technology for good has been a bit of a challenge, I find, in the impact circles, but the most recent project I found that really inspired me was virtual reality, which was really designed for gaming and for education purposes, fighter pilots, not really an impact investing space. But using the virtual reality for elderly to help them concentrate, using it for mental health, for stress, for anxiety, using it for hypnotherapy to help people in stressful situations, can be used for corporate situations against burnout. It can use, as I said, for elderly or people in high tension situations. So tech for good, I'm learning about how technology is creating enormous societal impact, and it's an exciting space.
That's great, because we also see a good deal flow with tech-driven companies, but thinking with products in an impactful way. So it's out there, but all the entrepreneurs are usually thinking about, so where's the money really come from? Is there enough money in the market right now? And so we have a 50 million euro fund right now, and if you all know, there's a lot of bigger funds out there and necessary to solve all these challenges. And one experience we made is that we actually in the recent years had very good co-investments with the typical market players like Spark Capital, Creandum, Holzbring Ventures, Amadeus Capital. So people could think it's kind of dangerous to mix these classic capitalistic market-driven tech investors with this historically separate impact investing world. Uli, you watch it from the fund of fund perspective. So you have a portfolio of the tech investors and us few impact investors right now. What do you think about that possible danger of working together?
Well, I've never seen a big danger in working together, to be honest. But I think it is big time that we get rid of this contradiction and this mutual fear that anything that is social cannot be financially profitable, and anything that is financially profitable cannot be social. I had plenty of discussions on whether profit distribution will affect the mission of a company and the like. And if we go by the assumption that no profit distribution qualifies for a social enterprise, then Apple would have been for 20 years the biggest social enterprise in the planet because they didn't distribute any profits. I don't think that they have totally lived up to the second part of that equation. But I think what we need to actually get used to is that the societal value that the company is creating is going to be the biggest value driver of the company. The companies that are successful in the market are going to be those that manage to monetize social value that they create. And that is a challenge that you can take from whatever angle you want to. Technically speaking, what we're looking at, if we look at capital, at investment in a company, no matter what purpose it has, capital is an operating cost for a company. If you've got a company that does social good and can do so with getting all the money for free from philanthropists, of course the entrepreneur will take the money for free and do the business.
Yeah.
However, if you're not managing to get your business model scaled with the money that you get for free, yes, you will have to pay a remuneration for it. And you will pay exactly as much as you as you have to pay in order to get the money that you need to implement your project. Hence, for me, this contradiction that is constantly talked into that space, for me, it is totally obsolete. Yes, there may have been a time where we have been abusing of social to capitalistically create returns and profitability. I think we are now entering the stage where we have to abuse of capitalism to create social value.
Thank you. Let's switch gears a little bit, because when you're in this space, and this was my motivation, and I talked actually to quite a couple of people who are part of the event here, is why you even go into that space. Because you have to work, I think, a little harder because it's a new space. We're still building it, and that's fun building new stuff, but it needs quite a lot of passion and energy. And what I enjoy in that day-to-day business is that not only working with entrepreneurs who are energetic and you all out there are passionate about your products, but who work on real-life problems. And I really want to give a few minutes to Marc here to tell us, and you will all, like I said before with the dementia case, maybe be in that situation, why you actually started this, did the idea come on, what motivated you, and how did it all start?
Yeah, so it was my granddad who motivated me to start this business. So my granddad, he suffered under dementia, and he lived in a nursing home at the end of his life. And I lived very close to him, and I really enjoyed to visit him, but his dementia got worse and worse. And it was more and more difficult for me to interact with him, and at a certain point he even couldn't recognize me anymore, and it was really depressing, and I started to visit him less and less. But fortunately, there was this one day I visited him in the nursing home, and I brought an iPad with me. Yeah, little Apple commercial here, right? But in the past I spent many holidays, summer holidays in Italy with him, and we are going sailing. And I had a nice collections of photos I saved on the iPad for him. And I showed my granddad these photos, and it was absolutely fascinating, his reaction. even so he couldn't recognize me anymore. It was really excitement for him to see these photos on this nice little tablet. It was bright and shiny. It was something totally new. And yeah, this was one thing I repeated the next time I visited him in the nursing home over and over again. And my granddad and we always had great fun together with this tablet. And then there was this one day I talked to a caregiver and I asked her if she also want to try to interact with my granddad with the tablet. And I think this was the moment when the idea was born to develop an assistance program, especially for these kind of situations. And half a year later, I founded the company Media for Care.
Perfect. So actually with a very simple solution, because usually you wouldn't
Yeah,
invest
super
in a
simple,
simple, some pictures on an app. But at the end of the day, this market actually has a lot of opportunities, actually simple solutions. You just have to think about it, and it's larger markets behind it, and good business models. Talking about motivation, Hedda, maybe a few words on your motivation, but also like business angels, they sometimes over-motivated when they go into impact startups because the cause is so touching often and very intense?
I think I preempted that question when I opened up and said, if you fall in love with entrepreneurship as a mindset and the world of entrepreneurship, you gravitate towards this idea that people can solve any problem if they just try to think about it in different ways, like you did. So my motivation is investing in entrepreneurs, finding people that were passionate about solving a problem, particularly a societal problem, a problem that really changed lives and wasn't just the next app to find, I don't know, a good cafe, which I really love. I mean, I love my coffee. But finding people that use the same type of mindset to solve societal problems, that is what attracted me. And I discovered social entrepreneurship while teaching entrepreneurship, and I thought, this is it. This makes perfect sense. You have that aha moment when you're like, this is what business and entrepreneurship is supposed to do. It's supposed to solve problems, create real value. And that was my introduction, and now I will only invest in an organization that can show me that they are by design having a societal impact, and that they understand the ratio of impact negative to positive, and that they continuously manage that ratio in the right direction.
Okay, thank you. Talking about institutional investors, so I think BlackRock and Bain Capital have now set up funds in the impact space in the US, so there's some movement in the market happening. How do you see this, Uli? Is this going to be the more new normal that these large funds look at this space? Do they even look at it with the right lens, or is it just a little bit greenwashing or social washing?
I think there's no doubt that impact investing currently is very fancy, and obviously you've got all kinds of players in the market with all kinds of motivation to move into that space. Whether it will be greenwashing, impact washing, or whatever, time will tell. Fact is, and that's my firm belief, and also the experience that we've got from our portfolio, is that if it is true that we are dealing through business models with societal issues that really are issues at scale, you actually, in considering impact in your investment assessment, do nothing else but hedging your investment against market cycles. Because the valuations that we are paying in a market environment that is overheating, where people actually pour money into the market and drive valuations up, that's one thing. But if the fundamentals of the business model that you're investing in are an issue which people are ready to pay for to get it solved, that's something that will persist over market cycles. And I think that is an experience that we are seeing in our portfolio over and over again. We have now mainstream venture capital funds that come to see us without us even requesting, that are actually quantifying the impact that they're creating through the portfolio out of their own incentive, because they know it is a competitive advantage, not only for accessing capital, but for the portfolio companies that they've invested in.
Okay, that's actually a good trend to see. I like that. Going back to the practical example here, Marc. So for your company, what's the vision, what's the future there, staying at that case of Media for Care?
Yeah, so our vision is super simple. We want to improve the life of millions of seniors and their caregivers. And yeah, my granddad, he suffered under social isolation, and social isolation is one of the worst things that can happen to you when you get old. Yeah, but unfortunately, we all are going to be old some days, and also our parents are getting older and older. And yeah, with the help of technology, we want to solve this issue of social isolation. That's it.
Yeah, thank you. So for the last 2 minutes we have, I want to come back to you, Hedda, and to the big topic of the conference. It's about diversity. And the one observation and almost statistic we see that we have in the impact space a lot of female founders. And you work into general programs for female empowerment and everything. Is that an observation you can share when you see why is that more in the impact space? Is it because it's more social topics, which, as a prejudice, I say women are more in favor of dealing with it?
There's a lot of studies on this topic, and when I address the point of diversity, particularly gender, because I do gender lens investing, where I look at each investment not just at the board level or the executive level, but inside, is a solution or the product designed for women? Because if not, you are missing an entire market segment. How's the supply chain for women and girls? Gender lens investing is a fascinating space, but what we know about our space is that there's about 7% of women in the business angel space, which is terrible. It's much higher in Eastern Europe, by the way, I find. We've been doing, at EBAN, we've done some numbers on that. Gender lens investing and women investing is an important development because the women entrepreneurs, whether in the impact space or otherwise, are looking for people that see the world from their perspective. And I think I run a fund called Rising Tide with a bunch of other amazing women that helps other women learn how to early stage invest and promotes other women into entrepreneurship. We need to balance this out. Because if we talk about diversity, if we can't fix the situation for 50% of society, we're going to struggle with other smaller minorities.
Right.
I know we're running out of time, but I could probably talk ad infinitum about it.
And feel free to come back to Hedda later, and she will be at the Oktoberfest too.
Of course, in this outfit.
Excellent. So thank you very much. We're almost out of time. So my last words is, so I envy every and like every entrepreneur here who's passionate about his products. I just want to make sure, look at what you're doing, that it doesn't have a negative impact, because that will haunt you right away. And I hope we got some motivation that you, in this life or in the next startup you're building, that you look into building something impactful and really look at it from the angle we described here a little bit. Thank you very much.